Ready? Okay. My name's Dan, and today Jeff and I are going to talk about sheltering in place. So following a disaster or emergency or something that might potentially impact your house, we're going to talk about things to consider and things to do, things you can do now to prepare for an event like that, and then things to do once an event happens that will cause you to need to improve your shelter or find the best place to hunker down for a while. So that's our topic. I'm going to start and talk about things to know or things to consider at this point, and then I'm going to talk about things to do to survive and thrive, and then I'm going to hand it off to Jeff, and he's going to talk about some products you should think about purchasing and having around your house in the event that you need it. So first thing to consider is think about the most likely natural disasters or events that might happen that could damage your house or could cause you to require to shelter in place for a bit. So as I was looking at this from my eyes, I think a wildfire, flash flood coming out of the canyons, earthquake, heavy snow, pandemic. Those are the most likely scenarios that we should prepare for. There's several others. A lot of the information that we're presenting today came out of a document that we found from FEMA, and I think you're going to share a link later. If not, it's on the handout. It's on the handout. So there's a really good document from FEMA that provides a lot of different scenarios and things that could potentially happen, and then how to mitigate the problems that might come out of that. Another thing to consider is different times of the year will require different remediation or shelter improvements. If you have a event that has you requires you to shelter in place during the summer, you'll want to take shelter in a cooler part of your house. So down in the basement if you have one, or one of the lower floors where there's not a lot of windows that are south facing, or don't take in a lot of sun during the summer months. If you have an event in the winter that potentially the opposite effect is there's a lot of cold to deal with, you'll want to pick a room to shelter in that has a lot of windows that are south facing, and you can take advantage of the sunny days that we do have and enjoy that heat in the winter months. Also consider purchasing tools, and I said Jeff's going to go through a lot of supplies and tools that will help you with expected home repairs. Another thing to consider, and this is why my wife and I are talking about doing solar and batteries, is will your freezer work if the power goes out for a week? So we're thinking about doing the battery and solar combination to be able to hopefully preserve some of the food that we have stored in the freezer. Another thing, there's probably more dogs in Alpine than there are humans, so consider your pets. If you're going to have to find a place to shelter, think of a place that would be good that incorporates your pets, and think about their food and their waste routines as well. Let's see. And we already did talk about power, but if you're going to use a gas-powered or fuel-burning generator, of course, do that outside. Make sure that's situated outside so you don't have carbon monoxide poisoning. All right, things to do. So following an event, if we had an earthquake, for example, following an event, take assessment of the damage to your house, obviously. Think about the tools that you have on hand, the food and the water supply that you have on hand. Just basically take the first hour and just do an assessment of the things that you have available, and then also the repairs that might be needed. That's just a good first step. I always think about, we've all heard stories about people that are out hiking or camping, and some terrible thing happens. They make some bad decisions. They might have hypothermia, make worse decisions, and end up dying when they had all the tools available to survive the situation. So the best thing to do is, again, start with an assessment, look at your tools, try to figure out the best path forward, and go from there. Another thing, so this is something to do now, is if you have, in the event of an earthquake, if you have top-heavy furniture or a TV up on a shelf, or a water heater that's not fastened to the wall, take time right now to think about fastening things to the wall. If you have an earthquake, you don't want that to fall on you or anybody around. Also, following an event, after you get a chance to assess the damage to your house and assess your situation, check on your neighbors too. That was mentioned earlier too, but it's not too hard to check on, go next door and check on a couple people around you. Just make sure everybody's okay. And of course, call your family and make sure that they're okay and let them know you're okay. All right, so that FEMA guide that I mentioned has a lot of scenarios, and I'm going to talk about a few of them, and I'm going to just give the highlights of some of the things that they recommend doing. The first one is a chemical hazard. So if there's some kind of biohazard or something in our area, of course, first thing you want to do is go inside, close all the windows and doors, turn off any AC or furnace, and you'll want to seal the doors and windows in the room that you're going to shelter in. So again, this is where you pick a room that you're going to shelter in so that you can make that a safe place. And again, if it's winter, you probably want to do it upstairs south-facing. And if it's summer, you probably want to go down in the basement. And then seal off all the openings. So get some Visqueen and some duct tape and close off all the openings in the doors and the windows and stuff like that. Most of those types of events don't stick around that long. You're probably okay if you can shelter yourself for a day, and most of the whatever dangerous is probably going to dissipate in the atmosphere within a day. So that's usually a short-term thing. They talk about home invasions, and I thought this was interesting. Of course, some of the obvious things are lock the doors. If somebody's trying to break into your house, lock the doors and windows and go hide. But don't go into a closet. Don't go into somewhere that there's not an exit that you can get out quickly. Always have somewhere to go, and be aware of your surroundings in case that person does get into your house. If they come in your bedroom door, make sure you can get out the patio door or some other way. Don't lock yourself into a situation where you're painted into a corner. Of course, call 911 and always try to flee first and fight last. Flash floods. In our neighborhood, there's the emergency way out, but there's the one main way out. You're going to have to cross the wash, and if it's a major flash flood, likely that bridge is going to be overtopped, and it's really important not to drive across flash floods. You don't really know how deep it is, and you could get stuck or worse if it washes you downstream into the main wash. So if you're home and there's a flash flood coming, go inside, bring your pets, go into the upper floors of your house. If told to evacuate and you can do it safely, then go and do that. Stay off of bridges. Don't drive around barricades. Don't drive across water, even if you think it's shallow. And if you are driving and your car starts to float away or starts to take on water, get onto the roof, bring your cell phone with you, call 911. So there's some really good advice in a lot of different scenarios. I don't have time to go over all of them, but take one of the handouts, look it up. It's a quick link, and then there's several different scenarios you can run through, and at least be thinking about things that you want to do to help prepare yourself and your family if you need to shelter in place. With that, hand it over to Jeff.
So when Bishop asked me about this, I was kind of laughing with him because I've always looked at preparing for disasters and thinking, well, I could have my food storage in there, flash flood comes in, wipes it all away, why did I do all that, right? And I know we're still supposed to be prepared. And so for me, I go back a little further. Troy talked about TVs and stuff like that. I'm looking at it saying, I've just got to survive. And I think of the pioneers that lived in a one-bedroom cabin. We all live in pretty good-sized homes. If there's a disaster, I don't have to live in a pretty good-sized home anymore. I'm thinking, how do I make one space for my family that we're safe from the elements? And so for me, it's any construction item. Everything that you see on our table probably cost maybe $1,500 total, $2,000 with tools, where I can go in and repair a room, get it to be a place where we can put out cots, we can put sleeping bags, but we can make sure we're safe from the elements. I lived in Houston 30 years ago. And we had a rainstorm one day. We had 24 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. And everything near a river got wiped out. And our stake president said the next 2 Sundays, church is canceled. We're going to meet at the stake center, and we're going to send you out to help people. And I remember we just thought we were cleaning out mud out of people's homes. So the 1 week we'd taken flat nose shovels and brooms, and you go into these poor people's homes, and in a 24-hour period it went from this beautiful house to ceiling fans that are just bent down from the water draining out of the house. And our second week, I took my young men out, and I had a Ford Explorer at the time, and we pulled up to where they sent us, and this lady's house had been lifted off the foundation and deposited across the road in a ravine. And she was just sitting out there, and I said, "What do you want us to do?" And she said, "Can you just tear my house down and put it in a pile?" And I'm thinking, I've got shovels and brooms. And I had a chain. And so I took I had a hammer. My young men started punching holes through the walls, and we hooked that chain to the hitch on my truck. And piece by piece, we pulled our house down. And I remember as the last piece came down, you know how young men are, they're cheering like, "Oh, this was awesome." And this poor lady's crying because that's the last of her house. So we never know what it's going to be. In her case, it's a complete wash. There's no salvaging, no long-term solution. But if we have an earthquake and part of our house is damaged, and after we do the assessment that Dan said, and we've got an area that's still stable, I just want to be able to go in. If the roof is caved in one place, I want to be able to take it apart. I want to be able to repair it to where we don't have rain. So, some of the common things, you think, where do I store plywood in my house? Well, I can cannibalize the damaged part of the house. Behind the drywall, there's walls where I can find this type of stuff that I can use to patch a ceiling. I can take tar paper from another part of the roof someplace and put it over holes in my roof, or shingles from other places. So the main thing is, how do I just get one place secure? So got plastic. If we have the incident like Dan was talking about, if I need to seal things off, windows that are broken, I can take 6mm plastic. This is like $50. Plenty to cover windows in 1 or 2 rooms if you need to. This stuff right here, waterproof tape, awesome. I can use this to tape plastic down, then the water won't come underneath it, or the tar paper. I keep just a bucket of different type of fasteners, screws, nails, all types of things that I could rebuild. If I had to, I could rebuild half my house today. I could rip one part down, recycle the stuff that's in there, and build it. So one of the key things that I think, I try to keep my tools, I know this may sound crazy, I like to keep them near the exterior part of my house, because if my house caved in and I can't get to my tools, I'm out of luck, right? So I try to keep some stuff very close to my doors, where if I had to get in from the outside, I could still get my tools. So some of the key things when you're doing demo work: pry bar. If you've got power, Sawzall is awesome. You can rip anything apart with one of these. And then I just try to have tools for everything. So plumbing, electrical. I've got this a little pop rivet gun, so if I need to rivet something together, it's really, for me, it's just thinking, how'd the pioneers build a cabin, right? They didn't have these tools. So if I can take these tools and I can create, as a kid, I built forts in my backyard. I'm essentially building a waterproof fort that's insulated. You can keep a couple rolls of insulation around. These are easy to help insulate around a room. Or I can, like I said, I can go cannibalize it out of a part of the house that I'm not going to live in. We have it everywhere. So that's kind of my main focus. I have tools to do just about anything, and they don't cost that much. People might think they do, but less than what you're going to pay for a battery pack. That's still important. But I love having battery operated tools too, because I have probably 20 of these, and I always just try to keep all my batteries charged. That way, if there was a disaster, I could just use one and repurpose 20 batteries. That's going to give me a lot of time to do some repair work. Rob knows it because he does it every day. That's the key for me for long-term survival. Hopefully it's 5-6 months, it's not years, but if it had to be years, this should be able to help you secure your house. So this is awesome for short term, and you can do it in your backyard, hopefully. If your house has some part that's still, in decent structure, then you can avoid that and use this to turn your house into just a smaller place to survive. So that's
Yep.